So yeah, for starters, this was supposed to be a D&D channel, but I want to try something different. All the footage, fresh, colorful visuals, a drip of early to mid 2000s style, an urban environment, an emphasis on making the entire game the canvas, and more importantly, an amazing soundtrack. Splatoon, the franchise responsible for absolutely demolishing the brain chemistry of early online teenagers ever since 2015, and further cementing the That's right, people. We're talking about the original Squid Game. You know, the one responsible for absolutely demolishing the brain chemistry of teen online tweens ever since the year of our Lord 2015, and tightening the ever strong and chokehold Nintendo's had on us for the past 200 years or something. Let me tell you something. After I got my hands on the Wii U and I saw the first trailer for this thing, there's never been a game that I've wanted to inject more into my bloodstream until I saw the first Bomb Rush Cyberpunk trailer. Hey, so, do you remember how we didn't have to pay for online multiplayer on Nintendo consoles? Ah, good times. Anywho, as much as I'd love to kick back and gush about the Splatoon series for a good 2 to 3 hours, that's not why we're here. What if I told you, Splatoon wasn't the first game with a Y2K aesthetic and an amazing soundtrack that expressed your creativity by painting the entire town different colors? Nah, not that one, but we'll get to that one too at some point. What if I told you there was another, at the time, Nintendo exclusive property that had everything I just told you about, that also predated Splatoon by a good 7 years? What if I told you, we have Splatoon at home? Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Back in 2006, a bunch of students from the Utrecht School of the Arts in the Netherlands got commissioned by the city to design a game to help build interest in Utrecht's development at the time. You know, to help keep the kiddies entertained as their parents wonder where their tax money's been going and all that. And initially, it was supposed to show off what the city was supposed to look like in 10 years, but one thing led to another, and that resulted in the basis for what we now know as the Blob. So, the plot goes as follows. Playing as the titular Blob, the UFO gets knocked off course and is sent on a crash course to the city of Utrecht, where it ends up annihilating the local Inc. headquarters. But fortunately, you manage to hop out with a parachute before it crash lands. After that though, you get chased out the city by the entirety of Inked. And this game might actually be the good guys in this continuity. Alright, so boom. You see, in the first product, Inked are an evil race of corporate aliens that go around conquering planets to develop them to their business empire, subjugating the locals before transforming their homes to colorless dystopias. They're like Nazis, but ink flavored. Inkies. Here though, they try to stop you, a space alien that's rolling around an actual Dutch city, causing millions of dollars in property damage and painting the entire town of its poop. Also, did I mention you change colors by absorbing the townspeople? Sneaky stuff, man, I tell you. Anyway though, as you can see, the gameplay isn't too far off from the actual finished product. But, seeing as it was a tech demo at the time, the Blob, also known as De Blob Utrecht, was very bare bones in comparison to the full release. For starters, it lacked the full version sound design, animated cutscenes, and only had one map. Also, technically speaking, the game didn't have an ending. Once you painted all the landmarks and nabbed all the hidden collectibles around the city, bad news, that was pretty much the entire game. Sure, there were some hidden coins that you could collect here and there, but besides that, there was no actual way to finish off the story. Still though, for the 9 people that worked on it, the game was actually received pretty well and it got great press. So, about a year later, THQ comes knocking at the door and sees potential in the idea. Eventually, they buy off the rights and task 2 companies to get to work on developing it into a fully fledged game. Bluetongue, who handled the release of the console version on the Wii, and Helix, who was supposed to handle the DS port, but we'll get to that later. So this time around, the roles were reversed. Playing as Blob, you and your allies, the Color Underground, have to team up and fight off the Inked Corporation, led by its founder Comrade Black, who's going around sapping the color from the now fictional Chroma City, enslaving its people. As for the gameplay loop, it's actually simple, but pretty unique as you go around fighting Inkies, restoring color, and hearing the music go progressively more cheerful as you go through the motions, completing the level. Not to mention, every color is assigned its each accompanying instrumentals and sound effects every time you paint something. While changing colors doesn't offer any actual tactical advantage, what it does do is add a neat little charming incentive to try out different color and song combinations, making each versions of the songs in the game's soundtrack a neat little reward for creativity and progression. I mean, hey, you can listen to the OST basically this whole video, so check it out. If you want more, the guy who did OST, John Guscott, doesn't have too many other games under his belt besides the sequel, but a lot of the soundtrack is bossa nova and ska, so if you're into that, you're gonna love this. Oh, and these character designs, look at me. You look at me and tell me these wouldn't fit right at home on early 2000s Cartoon Network or something. On top of that, since characters don't actually talk and instead communicate through gibberish and text boxes, a lot of the communication is done through gestures and body language, and my god, you can feel the care and emotion put into every animated cutscene. Fun fact, actually, there were talks of making a Day Blob TV show that would have aired on Sci-Fi Kids when the sequel rolled around, but that got the axe after Blue Tongue was dissolved after THQ went under. According to the wiki, the image you're looking at right now is the only piece of concept art that ever got released to the general public. But don't quote me on that because I couldn't find anything else to confirm this, so... That aside, it is a real shame that the idea didn't go anywhere after the death of THQ, but then again, given how video game adaptations usually go, especially with how they were back in the day, maybe that was for the best. Here's hoping that would have been more like the Sonic Boom cartoon or maybe even the Super Mario Bros. Super Show or something, but that's just wishful thinking at this point. All that said, this game isn't exactly without its flaws. For as good as the soundtrack is, levels go on for a while. We're talking about half an hour while. So, if you're not good with pacing yourself, or you're not the type to repeat songs for hours on end, listening to the same song, even with slight variations thanks to different color combinations, can get a bit tiring. Now, don't get me wrong, as polished as Day Blob is compared to its tech demo, it still shares much of its core gameplay loop. So, for as fun and vibrant as the game can be, doing the same thing over and over again, only with slight variations thanks to different levels and color combinations, can feel kinda samey at times. Oh, and since, this used to be a Wii exclusive, you already know they're gonna try to implement motion control somehow. In this case, what you had to do was jump by moving the Wiimote. And to a certain extent, yeah, it is understandable because it was a Wii exclusive. At some point, you're gonna want to show off the motion controls of the Wiimote. But the main problem is, for a guy made out of goop, Blob is surprisingly hefty, and I wouldn't call them tank controls exactly, but most of the time it's a little clunky, and at worst it's mildly frustrating. And while I wouldn't consider Day Blob to be a platformer, yeah, some of these jumps can get really finicky at times. Hey, at least Day Blob isn't known for being the Dark Souls of painting games, so it kinda balances out. Fortunately though, this wasn't as much of a problem after Day Blob 2 came out and tidied up the movement system so the game would work on different consoles. Not only that, but it added new methods of transportation, power-ups, better animation, and even brought back John for the soundtrack. And on top of that polish I mentioned earlier, yeah, the game really needed it, looking at that. Also, it actually did get a DS port this time around, which was pretty much just a console version if it was just the 2D side-scrolling sections. Not to be confused with the first game's port that got cancelled. So, All that aside, what went wrong with this franchise? Well, for starters, the first game actually sold surprisingly well enough to warrant that sequel I was just talking about on PlayStation and Xbox. But at the same time, much of its success was because it was one of the few third-party exclusives for the Wii. And while it did achieve a cult following over the years, it wasn't much of a smash hit. And by all means, while the sequel did get pretty good reviews, in terms of sales, it completely bombed, drastically underperforming and not even coming close to its goal of 75,000 copies in its first month. Yeah, that without THQ was going through dire financial straits at the time. Blue Tongue wasn't just making enough cash to justify keeping them around. So eventually, they get axed in about August of 2011, only 6 months after Day Blob 2 was released. It's too long after that, THQ goes under in 2013 and then gets absorbed into Nordic Games, resulting in the birth of what we now know as THQ Nordic. And that's all she wrote for Day Blob, right? Well, not exactly. Okay, so here's what happened. In 2016, THQ Nordic managed to get the rights back. And then a year later, in 2017, they put Day Blob 1 and 2 to PC. And in 2018, they do the same to the modern consoles at the time. So, now we're done, right? Yeah, about that. Okay, so you know how earlier I said Day Blob 1 was supposed to get a port to the DS, but it got canned since a company that got hired went under? Yeah, so last year, Pan Pizza somehow got his hands on the ROM of the game that's still unfinished, and then made a video on it, then releasing it to the public. This video's been going on for a while now, and everything I would have said about it got explained way better over there. So, if you want a more in-depth look on what the game would have been like, go ahead and check that out. But going off of what little we do have, it's nice knowing that the DS port would have got the same love and attention that the console version got at the time. Didn't stop Helix from going under, but hey, I guess you can't win them all, right? I mean, besides, we got the sequel, right? That counts as something, huh? Right? Right? Okay, maybe it doesn't, but now come on here with me. Anyway, the Blob 3, right? Are we getting it? I don't know, probably not. Given how many remakes of old games you can get recently, it's a non-zero chance that maybe, just maybe, something good will happen. And seeing as Splatoon 3 is going to stop getting Splatfest eventually, something might just have to pop up and fill that niche of multicolored paint game one of these days. And who knows, maybe one of these days someone's going to have the nuts to give Dave Blob the bomb rush cyberpunk treatment. And hey, if we're lucky, maybe they'll give THQ the push to actually do something with the IP. I mean, hey, look down Sega. Anyway, that's all the time we got. Like, comment, share, subscribe, bell icon, yada yada. You watch YouTube videos. Thanks for watching. Peace.